Welcome to the Gruber Morning Show. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Good morning and welcome, everybody.
We have a nice scene behind us here. I asked Doll-E or Grok, I can't remember which one, Doll-E, for a picture that represents Robotaxis in a nice warm setting. The first one was kind of bluish, and these are supposed to be Robotaxis. So hope you enjoy it. As usual, we have AI set our backgrounds for us. A lot of things to cover today. One of the first things is, here's a interesting headline. Analyst cuts Lucid's price target to $1.13 per share ahead of Q4 earnings, which, by the way, is tonight.
Tomorrow. Yeah, tonight.
Yeah. Is it tonight or tomorrow? NVIDIA is tomorrow.
I think NVIDIA
Lucid
is tomorrow.
is tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it goes like this. One day before EV maker Lucid Motors reports its fourth quarter financial results, Redburn Atlantic analyst Tobias Beith slashed his price target by over 67%, citing concerns about the company's need to secure significant additional capital. It's actually lower than that this morning. It's in the 260s somewhere from over $3 for the last few days.
Yeah, what I saw just about an hour ago was 262. If I look at the stock price right now, it's back up to 265, but it seems to have really tanked. And in spite of that, still over 75% of Lucid stock is owned by investment firms and by professional investors.
Yeah, good point. So we'll have to wait to see what tomorrow brings, and there's a big rebound, and those of you that are buying the dip right now are going to do well.
It's interesting to see, and I'll just throw out here too, the non-Tesla EV makers. We've heard of a lot of stuff in the news about these guys. Rivian is another one. You and I were talking just pre-show. It seems to have slipped under the radar. Rivian generated gross profit in the fourth quarter of 2024. That's a first for them, and outside of the Chinese automakers and Tesla, it might be the first time we've had an automaker actually produce gross profit on the cars that they sell.
But look at how the market responded.
Yeah. And then Rivian went down 10% like everybody else.
Yeah. And you were mentioning also that the plant, the loan for the plant in Georgia seems to be in jeopardy.
There's a possibility. The Trump administration and the Department of Government Efficiency, they're taking kind of a dim view on that loan right now. The loan is supposed to be signed, sealed, and delivered, so it might take some doing to unwind it if the federal government decides to go that route. But you never know.
Well, getting back to Lucid, they're, of course, banking on the release of their newest vehicle, the Gravity, and that won't really get into large-scale releases until April of this year, I guess.
Yeah, I'd heard that they sold 50 of them in January, but that doesn't mean that those have been delivered.
Right. So let's keep an eye on Lucid stock. It seems to be tanking right now. Interesting to see what earnings reports are tonight, and by tomorrow, it may be a completely different day. Another headline here, Trump administration is now removing EV chargers from government buildings. This is the General Services Administration, or GSA. They're shutting down reportedly 8,000 EV chargers at federal sites and deleting websites about EV efforts. 18 months ago, the GSA, which manages facilities and logistics support for federal government's sprawling network of office buildings, was openly celebrating its efforts to get more fleet and employee vehicles to go all electric. This was during the Biden era days. By 2025, a very different time in the federal government, and now GSA is reportedly shutting down all EV chargers on federal properties nationwide. We were speculating, are these chargers free to federal employees or to anyone for that matter, or are they the pay-for-use type?
My understanding is that they're the pay-for-use type. I was doing just a little bit of reading on it to try to find out, but they're not commercial pay-for-use. You go to Blink, you go to ChargePoint, you pay somewhere 50 to 60 cents per kilowatt for energy for your car, even though the provider of that system may only pay 8 cents or 12 cents or something like that. Um, so they're not running at for profit. They're taking whatever costs they get in electricity and they're just passing it on to the person who has the car. Doesn't seem like very good business.
No, it seems like if the overriding concern is cutting government waste, creating some profitability, the infrastructure is already there. We're talking 8,000 chargers.
Yeah.
There was a huge upfront expense to get those installed. Now, if it's not profitable, turn it profitable. Raise the rate, or to match or to exceed the cost of the kilowatts for those charging stations.
Another thing that they would need to do would be to change the connectors. A lot of the connectors on these chargers are CHAdeMO connectors, which are no longer in the industry. They've been phased out now for almost 5 years.
Right.
So many of these connectors are sitting there with plugs that won't plug into modern cars.
Good point. So we need some NACS connectors on those chargers. Roger Starkey joined us. He says another one bites the dust? Question mark.
I think he was referring to Lucid. That's when that came in. I don't think so yet. We've talked multiple times, and now I'm a Lucid stockholder, so this isn't advice. This is just my opinion. We've talked a lot about how the PIF fund seems to really have a vested interest in making sure that Lucid has every chance to be successful.
Yeah, they want this one to succeed. Got Instagram, EV Solutions and Sync says, best of luck to Lucid Motors in this tough mission. Yeah, we agree. We want to see these companies make it. So getting back to the GSA, it turns out that they have received direction that all GSA-owned charging stations are not mission critical, the memo read. And they go on and they say, while President Trump said on the campaign trail that he is for electric cars, his administration seems to be acting to the contrary. He issued an executive order to end what he falsely, they say, claimed President Biden's EV mandate, ordered a halt to federal EV fast charging funding, and is targeting an end to EV tax credits. It's kind of interesting that with Elon's participation and influence, something like this would have been enacted.
It does seem interesting to that, and yet at the same time, the one background article I read to help support this was saying that Elon is actually behind some of these moves because he sees the inefficiency that the government is running these chargers at a loss, that they have connectors that are no longer compatible, things like that. And so it's like, shut it down, just get rid of it.
Interesting. They say, as far as the GSA is concerned, it was tasked with phasing out many of the government's fossil fuel-powered vehicles with zero-emission ones, once requiring that all light-duty federal acquisitions be electric or plug-in hybrid vehicles by the end of 2027. We'll have to see how that alters, changes, or...
I think the one thing that we won't see are the electrified postal service vehicles that they were talking about putting out.
Yeah, who was the vendor that they had selected for that? Canoe, I think? Or
I think Canoe, I think, was the one. Of course, Canoe has already gone bankrupt as well and is winding down their operations.
Yep.
There's a question on this as well from Instagram for Oakshade 104. He's asking, are they Tesla chargers?
The image that we have on our, the thumbnail, which was actually Grok, indicates that they are, but yeah, they are not.
Yeah, they're not. A couple other ones on YouTube. Ray Johnson. Good morning, Ray. Glad
welcome
to have you on. He asks, what ramifications has or will Mr. Musk's Doge actions have on Tesla's brand?
I don't know about the Tesla brand as much, Ray, as the stock. You've been watching it tank. It's down, hovering around $300 this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all knew that there would be some impact from this. And then, of course, the other issues and shenanigans. And right now, Tesla is suffering a bit.
Well, and Tesla sales in Europe continue to fall. The latest report on sales is that their EV sales were down almost 45% across Europe in January of 25. And one of the things the experts are attributing that to is Mr. Musk's political stances.
Yeah. YouTube. Niels is joining us. He says, I don't think any Chinese EV production is profitable. The only profitable EV companies in China are BYD and LI Auto, and that profit probably comes from hybrids only. There's, of course, the expectation that the Chinese government is heavily subsidizing these types of companies because they want to be on the forefront of EV technology.
Yeah, that's very possible that that Niels is right on that particular instance. And when I referred to Chinese companies being profitable, I was specifically thinking of BYD.
Mm-hmm. So, Mark, tell us about this new improved Tesla Model Y, which has too many features.
Yeah, the Tesla is improving the Model Y. They're coming out with the Juniper model. We've heard about that in the press. It's getting close to being released. The main features that people see on it are there's some tweaks in the manufacturing and look and feel of it. One thing that Tesla has done is on the interior design, they've made the cabin almost too quiet, people are saying. One of the interior improvements that Tesla made was to improve the cabin noise. They're reducing it, and the way that they've reduced it is by using acoustic lined glass, better door seals, and better window seals. And these, the combination of these things has basically removed all road noise from the Tesla Model Y. So now the vehicle drives so quietly that people can hear the whine of the electric motor. Mm-hmm. That's even in past versions of the Model Y, which has been quiet, you can't hear the motor for the road noise. And some drivers have even expressed concerns that if there's an emergency vehicle around, they won't be able to hear it because they can't hear anything outside the car, no matter how fast or slow they're driving. Tesla is looking into it. They had kind of a cheeky, little cheeky tweet or post on X where they said, "Oh, car's too quiet. You know what? We're on that. We'll get it taken care of." And things that they're talking about is possible visual recognition of emergency vehicles and making an alert inside the Model Y that there's an emergency vehicle close by or something like that. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see what it's like to drive in a car that's that quiet. I'm already very spoiled with the Model S that I drive because it is so incredibly quiet to drive.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. The whole notion of the alerts from the emergency vehicles began to change as they got higher end audio systems in vehicles. I sometimes wonder, I'm sitting 3 lanes away from a car that's playing their music in the cabin with windows rolled up so loud that I can hear everything.
Yeah.
And it's almost too loud for me. Motorcycles is another one.
Oh, yes.
They're trying to overcome the noise from their exhaust, and you can hear that at least a half a block away. But yeah, these days I think emergency vehicles have a tough time getting any respect on the road, and it's dangerous oftentimes. I don't know if you've been at intersections where there's an emergency vehicle and someone's not paying attention to lights, and they don't realize that they need to pull over, let that vehicle go by.
Well, and just heading into work this morning, there was an accident on the freeway that I was driving on. Emergency vehicles coming up and trying to do the work to get the freeway cleared. It's rush hour time, and people just sitting there with the lights, sirens, horns, everything going on right behind the vehicle, and the driver's doing nothing to move. They seem to be just oblivious.
Yeah. Instagram Oakshade104 says, looks like a common charging plug or adapter would be a big help. Again, talking about the outdated, antiquated federal charging stations, all 8,000 of them that are going to be retired. If they had NACS chargers, which is the new emerging standard now, fortunately, there's some standardization in that world. We deal with Tesla Roadsters.
Yep.
That has a Type 1 or Type 2 plug on it, which no one makes anywhere. No one at all. It was before the J1772 standard came out. Then you had J1772, and a lot of manufacturers went with that. And then the DC fast charging, the CHAdeMO. Mm-hmm. But the NACS seems to be the most elegant, small, concise, and very reliable as well. I don't know about you, but ours is outside. We have, a Tesla
Right.
Model S, and although it doesn't rain heavily here or ever, it seems, that thing is amazingly reliable for something that hangs outside on the charging station.
It really is. And, that's the one thing about Tesla. Their charging stations are up, well over 99% of the time. And none of their competition with the J1772 plugs can seem to get even close to 90% of uptime for all their stations.
Yeah. Niels has a solution, it looks like. He says that road noise thing should be easy. By connecting the outside to the speakers, but exclude frequencies that come from constant noise. That is a simple self-learning process.
I think Niels is right there. It's, and that's one of the suggestions that was made was being able to pipe certain frequencies of noise or pipe certain things into the vehicle so that they could be people could hear.
Yeah.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
There are earmuffs that people use when they go to a shooting range that can go a certain frequency and block out certain frequencies. So it's not like the technology isn't there. It just needs to be somewhat converted to a car.
Noise filters,
Yes.
notch type filters,
Yeah.
that attenuate certain frequencies. That makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oakshade also says, did you see Tesla taxi release pictures? Plastic panels, not stainless. I did not know they were plastic.
I had not seen the release pictures yet. That's interesting. I didn't know that. NMEA has a bidirectional charging standard that they've finally defined for the marketplace as well. NMEA is the engineering standard setting body for most high voltage electrical systems. If you have your 4-prong plug that has the 3 straight prongs and the round one for the ground, that's a NMEA plug. It's called a NMEA 1540, I think is what it's called. And so NMEA sets the standards for those plugs. They've also set a standard called the EVSE standard for power export permitting standards. This is ideally for use in municipalities, the cities that write the electrical code that their communities follow, and it will define the technical requirements and parameters that allow EV owners to enable bidirectional charging. So in other words, all these cars that have vehicle-to-grid capabilities, most of them can't use their vehicle-to-grid capabilities because there's never been a standard defined for how to hook up the cars to the grid. But the concept is one step closer to reality where, as an EV owner, you could have a vehicle that pulls electricity down overnight, charges fully, and then the next day when electric rates are higher, it can be pushing its electricity back to the grid with the owner of that car actually getting the benefit of the better rates.
Yeah, okay. The NMEA standard, by the way, in the electrical world, 5-15 is 5 is the voltage, 120 volts.
Okay.
15-15 is the actual amperage of that outlet. So a 5-15, 5-20, for example, those are 120.
Sure.
Then when you get into the 208, 230, 240, it becomes 6.
Right.
So 6-20 is a 20 amp, 240 volt outlet. And very easy to remember that way.
Yes, it is. And then the 15 and 1540, I know is 40 amps. I don't know what the 15 stands for.
I don't know what the 15 would be either.
But that's your typical 4-prong dryer plug is a 1540.
Well, if anybody wants to chime in, we'd like to hear about that. So I've got a picture I'm throwing up here. Can we get that up on the screen, guys? This is a chart that shows the world's largest automakers by earnings in 2024. And if you notice, Toyota is at the top of the list there with $46.41 billion in 2024. It reflects its robust financial performance and market leadership. Market leadership certainly not in EVs at this point, and we're all waiting for Toyota to catch up. But let me scroll down this image a bit here. And Mark, you may help me here. If I get a scroll bar on the right here.
I'm not sure if it's a scroll bar or just a resize that you need.
Yeah, it might be a resize. Can you try double clicking up by car sales at the top?
Oh,
There
thank
you
you,
go.
Jesse. So there we have some of the other players. And if you notice, Tesla ranks down at the bottom there. GM also. Wow, that's surprising. Where's Ford in here?
Well, you've got two columns, left top to bottom, and then right top to bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're right.
The
Yes.
Ford, General Motors. What I found kind of remarkable, I started working for ADP, the payroll and human resource company, back in 2007. At the time, ADP was about an $8 billion a year company. And they compared themselves with Ford in terms of size. They said Ford's a little bit bigger at $10 billion a year.
Mm-hmm.
Now I look at this in 2024, Ford shrank 20% from 2007 to 2024.
They did indeed. Yes, did that. So it looks like Tesla ranks in the middle somewhere along with GM. And Xiaomi, we're going to talk about that in a moment here too. That ranks toward the bottom. So anyway, I thought you'd find that graph interesting or that chart. Let's see what-
Interesting, Pete. Only 3, right? 3 of the top 18 are U.S.-based companies.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Now here's an interesting article. Ford CEO Jim Farley, by the way, says China is 10 years ahead of us in the EV battery technology. And this is from a CEO that you might think would be driving a Ford vehicle to show up for work every day. He doesn't. He drives a Chinese vehicle, and he has been for over 6 months. And he says, "I don't want to give it up." The Chinese vehicle he's driving is the Xiaomi SU7. By the way, that is spelled Xiaomi, but it's pronounced Xiaomi, even though there's no SH in there, which is oftentimes what happens in these other languages.
Yes.
They pronounce the consonants a bit different than we do. So there we go. It's a full-size sedan, and it's the. Let me bring up a picture here, and you can see Jim with his car. It's a full-size sedan, and the first EV from Xiaomi, which is a Chinese consumer electronics company. So Jim admitted this in a recent podcast, Everything Electric, and he's been driving this car now for over half a year.
That's something else. And, and he said, Ford, in order to catch up to the Chinese, is going to have to figure out a way to get intellectual property from the Chinese. And as I began to dig into that, I found out a little bit of the story of LFP, and it's fascinating. So the current technology for batteries, the leading edge is lithium iron phosphate. CATL leads the world. They produce almost 80% of the world's lithium iron phosphate, lithium ion batteries.
Chinese battery manufacturer.
It's a Chinese battery manufacturer, yep. And Ford is putting actions behind their words. The Blue Oval Battery Park, which is being built in Michigan, will be set to go online by the end of 2026. They're going to be leasing or be acquiring from CATL the technology and intellectual property needed to manufacture their own lithium iron phosphate batteries. So it looks like it's a partnership agreement between the two. The chemistry, that lithium iron phosphate chemistry, was developed by scientists at the University of Texas in the early 2000s.
In the United States.
In the United States. It was commercialized by a company called A123 Systems, LLC. So A123 Systems figured out how to build the battery, how to do the lithium iron phosphate, but they mistimed the market. The EV demand didn't appear as quickly as they thought it would appear, and so they went bankrupt.
Cash burn, cash flow problems. Yes, like so many of these other EV Johnny-come-latelys. Yeah.
Yep. And so when they went bankrupt, the CATL bought out all of the intellectual property for pennies on the dollar that this company had. They felt that it was a viable company. And CATL at the time was a parts manufacturer for cars, and they pivoted to become an EV battery manufacturer believing that the potential for that market was much greater than the potential for the parts market they were in. They still manufacture parts, just that the EV batteries have become their primary source of revenue.
And they have emerged into an EV battery powerhouse. There are a number of
Yes.
OEMs in the U.S. that use their batteries.
Yes, Tesla is one of them.
Included, yes. Yeah. Interesting how this industry is progressing and migrating. Roger Starkey from YouTube says the charging standard issue goes back to the CCS consortium not doing a good job back in 2010. The same applies to the port position where they allowed manufacturers to pick random positions. We're still dealing with that.
Yeah, we sure are. Roger Starkey goes on and says that picture that we showed is not the Xiaomi SU7.
Let's pop that up here real quick. Yeah, that was the article. You know what? It says Ford on it. Never mind, folks. That is not a Xiaomi. I should have looked at the little emblem there. Can we pop that back up there, Cass? We can show people what we're talking about. Yeah, that is a Ford vehicle. See that little emblem right there?
Yep.
Are you looking for one, Mark?
I am looking for one right now. I've got one and I'll get it downloaded here.
We'll see what the Xiaomi SU7 looks like. Yes, you bet.
Let me get on to our morning show. We'll go to images.
And while he's doing that, I'll prepare you for the next article, which the headline says, "Don't expect to see robotaxis on Uber anytime soon," according to Dara Khosrowshahi. That's a tough one to
You can
pronounce.
scroll down and pull one up.
All right. There we go. So this is the car that's got Jim Farley in a all excited. Look at that. That is a sharp-looking car.
Nice looking sedan, actually. Yeah.
It sort of reminds me of a Japanese sports car.
Yeah, a little
The
bit.
Z cars, maybe a
I
bit.
was thinking Porsche.
Porsche too. Yeah,
a
you're
little
right.
bit,
Yeah.
bit Porsche-like.
I was seeing, especially with the headlights, because the Mazda Miata MX-5, the later models now, are starting to have a more aggressive look, and it gives that like angular, angry look, and that I don't know why in my head it kind of just reminded me of that, but yeah, it has more of an aggressive look.
Interesting. Got some nice calipers too. See the yellow calipers? So
I
good
do.
braking. And although the wheels, I'm not too excited. Sort of a pedal type pattern, but the rest of it, yeah, I can see why Jim is forsaken Ford in favor of this car. All right. So anyway, getting back to robotaxis, Dara Khosrowshahi is the CEO of Uber. And he says that he wants to work with Tesla and make the robotaxi something that is used as within his company. But Tesla wants to go it alone. Uber already partners with Waymo in Austin, Texas, and it will compete with Tesla's autonomous vehicle platform. Now, there are analysts that suggest that Tesla is not going to be able to scale their robotaxi unless they align with Uber and Lyft type companies to scale robotaxi operations. Apparently, Dara had a conversation with Elon, and he's discussed it with him. And in the conversation, it was pretty clear that Elon said they want to build it alone. And they don't want to partner at this point because Elon has long envisioned forming a standalone network of autonomous Teslas that would compete with ride-hailing companies like his, Uber, Lyft, and some of the others.
I'm not going to discount Elon's efforts.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Tesla has a history of figuring things out that the analysts think that they can't.
Right?
And they might be able to figure things out more quickly if they actually did do a partnership. They could see what has gone right, see what has gone wrong, learn from it very quickly. But if that's not Tesla's way, necessarily.
Roger says that his Show Me phone says hi. That's right. They're in the phone manufacturing business
That's
too.
right.
Excellent. All right, got another article here, and this one I found interesting. This has a picture of Elon in a number of different poses, but he is complaining here, and he's saying, and this is about his wealth, the world's richest man and all of that. He says a net worth of 400 billion plus does not mean that I have 400 billion in my bank account. I don't even have 1 million in cash right now. It's about liquidity.
Mm-hmm.
So where's this 400 billion, right? He says, I get annoyed when I see this kind of mindset that people have about rich people, especially billionaires. People feel so threatened by rich people's success that they tend to use rich people's success as an excuse for their own failures. Most people don't yet understand the concept of wealth. What is wealth? I am worth over $430 billion, but it's not like I have a massive account balance of 400 billion or something. My account balance is very, very low. He goes back to saying, I don't even have 1 million in my account right now. All of his money, he says, is tied up in stocks. And when I sell stocks, I still invest in more stock. My wealth is my company's. And if Tesla or SpaceX went bankrupt, I'd go bankrupt too, immediately. And even with my net worth, I still take loans and invest because I don't have much physical cash. There's a saying that goes along with this that they posted in this article. Unlike most people who spend their money and invest the rest, entrepreneurs invest all their money and spend the rest.
Yeah.
Got a chart here. If we can pop up that image. This one is an interesting one in that it shows gasoline prices by county. And this is as of February 10th, 2025. By country, sorry. Hong Kong, and this is price per liter. If you look at the scale on the bottom, they're nearing 3.5 liters.
3.5 US dollars per liter of gas.
Right.
Um,
And the U.S. ranks, I'll put my mouse on it as soon as I find it, right here. And it's about right. It's right at the 1 liter mark there. I'm sorry, $1 mark, getting back to that.
Yeah.
So, and a liter is roughly, what, 3 liters per gallon, something like that?
It's about 3 3/4 liters per gallon. So liter is just a little bit more than a quart.
In a quart, okay. All right. And if you notice, the countries that have the lowest cost are the most oil-rich countries. We've got Kuwait, Algeria, Egypt,
Mm-hmm.
Venezuela, interesting, Libya, Iran, of course.
Well, yeah, I mean, Venezuela, I can't say for Libya and Iran. I know that Venezuela, government subsidizes their fuel prices for
Yeah.
people. They're used to having fuel prices that are equivalent to about 40 cents a gallon.
Mm-hmm. Here's an interesting opinion from Roger. He says Tesla will eventually stop building cars long term, instead concentrating on running and refurbishing the fleet. I'm not sure as a manufacturer what advantage that is to them. And the fleet being refurbished, it's moved into ownership at that point.
That's the question that I'm going to have actually, and for Roger and for anybody out there and here. Will the concept of car ownership be changing within the next generation?
Mhm.
If you look back 20 years, the concept of music was that you would go out and you would buy a CD and you owned that music.
Mhm.
Now, it's hard to find physical copies of music that you can actually purchase and own for yourself. It's all about getting onto a subscription service and effectively renting the music on a month-by-month basis, and then you get however many tens of millions of tracks.
Mm-hmm. Niels is giving me some investment advice. Thank you, Niels. He says, though you're not hot on options, puts would have been useful for limiting Tesla losses and probably still are. Too much full self-driving and Robotaxi built into the stock. Well, as Mark said just before the podcast, we were talking about the volatility of Lucid stock. And he said smart money probably is running a straddle position. They have a long and short position, and they're just flipping in and out, whichever one is most advantageous. And
Yeah.
they know it's going to go up, it's going to go down.
Yeah. Another one that Neil says on YouTube, he says, plus the Musk backlash has not shown up yet in their finances. It's getting closer.
Yeah.
But you're definitely right, Niels. Once Tesla gives out their first quarter finances, you'll see the first hint of what kind of backlash there's going to be from Musk and against Tesla.
So we have our social media team is going to join us in this podcast, and they have a couple of topics that they would like to share. Which one of you guys wants to go first, Cass or Aaron?
I'll go ahead and go first.
Awesome.
Oh,
Hang on a second, Aaron. I can't hear you on my.
I think your mic is muted.
can you hear me now?
There we go.
There we go. Sorry, I'm at a new station, so I'm getting used to it. I have the technology that's going to be here in 5 years that's going to make me sell all 3 of my diesels.
Really?
Really?
Tell us more, yeah.
Yes. And that technology is solid state batteries. So we get a lot of watchers always asking, hey, when's solid state batteries coming out? What's the update on them? Mercedes right now, and if you want to pull up pick one, you can see that new Mercedes vehicle that they're doing the prototype solid state battery in. It's the EQS.
Okay.
So that's it right now. Right now they have just a lithium battery in it, but this guy is test driving the solid state one. It's a new prototype. It is currently being tested mostly in the UK. It's the same battery size and the weight, but like I said, it's a solid state chemistry. It uses a solid electrolyte, and then it also says a floating cell carrier design, which I'm not too sure what that is. And I tried to do some quick research before we got on here, and I didn't really get much. So I'll have to do some digging around on that one. But it allows more energy density and improves fire safety. Right now there's sort of a semi-solid state battery that's being used in like NEO and another Chinese EV, but it's more of a gel-like electrolyte. Apparently, it's kind of in between the two, and but this new one is going to be a complete 100% solid state battery, not the kind of hybrid gel one. And if you want to roll up pick two, you can kind of see the battery pack right there that it's that they're going to be using. But this solid state battery, the mass manufacturing is probably going to be coming at the end of the decade. So about 2030 is when we're probably going to see them in mass production. They're expected to deliver 25% more range, especially in the EQS models. Faster charging times are going to be a benefit to it, plus battery safety when charging. They're expecting the EQS range to increase from 481 to 620. So that's pretty darn good right there. And the reason why I say I think this is going to make me get rid of my diesels, because if they can figure out how to put this in a truck, I think you eliminate all the range anxiety, especially under towing. You can usually put a bigger battery in a truck. Right. This is just a small sedan type vehicle. So I think we're getting pretty darn close. And the reason why I bring that up is the company who's working with Mercedes to do this battery is called Factorial, and they're teaming up with Stellantis and Hyundai Motors right now, and they're going to be rolling out a Dodge Charger Daytona EV that's expected to test drive this solid state battery as well here in the U.S. So I think we're getting pretty darn close to having range anxiety going away and faster charging times. Instead of 15 minutes, you get 200 I think with Tesla. I think you're going to start seeing like 10 minutes, 5 minutes with 80%, 75% charging with this battery.
Interesting.
That's
Thank you,
pretty
Aaron.
cool.
Yeah, that is a pretty cool concept.
By the way, a floating cell design. I'm getting help from ChatGPT on this one.
Okay.
The floating cell design means your cells are not directly connected to the main voltage on the battery. So think about it. We have a battery bunker. We have 11, you can put, say, 15 sheets on that battery bunker, but each sheet has its own trickle charger.
Mm-hmm.
And when that sheet gets full, the trickle charger powers that down. The current for that cell goes down, or that sheet goes down, but you can still, the rest of the sheets still charge at full power.
Mm-hmm.
Those sheets are floating on the charge. This is the same type of thing that they're talking about at a battery level.
Okay. A different way of handling the charging method.
Yeah. So the individual sheets or modules can charge at different rates while the overall battery is just sitting on one charge. And the same thing when power is pulled from the battery, individual sheets might discharge at a slightly different rate. That's okay.
Mm-hmm. YouTube, I don't think Niels likes our president. He says Tesla may also have to pull out of China the way your orange phenomenon is carrying on.
That's a good way to put it.
That's a good way to put it.
And Roger Starkey says from YouTube, on ownership, yes, the young generation will think we are nuts to own cars. Their AI assistant will manage the specific cab that arrives 30 seconds before they need it.
He may be
That's a
right
point.
there. Clark Leakins on YouTube has joined us. He says Tesla is the best current and future value. Tesla's best current and future value is the Megapack utility microgrid. It's precisely why Tesla has established the utility business in Texas.
Yes. And Roger says, more like the Mercedes is teaming with Factorial.
Yes.
Instagram, Oakshade104, Tesla Robotaxi supposedly uses inductive charging, not a cord. Embed charge cable in road and charge while driving. Boy, there's going to have to be a lot of infrastructure changes before those things can navigate on the roads then, huh?
Yeah, that would be.
All right, we have Cass who wants
Yep.
to join us as well. What have you got for us, Cass?
Hi.
Hi.
I have the Kawasaki Ninja H2 hybrid hydrogen motorcycle that I found. They are trying to do a hydrogen and ice motorcycle, which I find kind of silly for a lot of reasons. There's not a lot of like hydrogen technology. I think I have my document in the folder with all of my images. So if you want to pull that up, there's a YouTube video right at the top that you can look at, and it shows you what the bike looks like. If not, you can just go through all of the pictures just willy-nilly.
I think if you click on that YouTube right
Yeah.
there.
If you click on that link.
Go.
There you go.
Got audio.
If you want to make it bigger, you can.
Oh, wow, look at that plug.
Yeah. So my best educated guess is the two little things on the side of it that kind of look like saddlebags are where the hydrogen actually sits.
Are we talking tanks?
I think so. I think those are tanks.
So what do you think happens if somebody lays that bike down?
That's what makes me nervous on a multitude of levels. Because laying a regular bike down already sparks and can catch fire.
Well, the solution there may be, or the situation there may be, that it becomes a jet engine and it propels you even faster.
Well, so this motorcycle is based off of their H2. Their H2 already goes about 210 miles on the track.
Wow.
This bike in particular really only goes a little over 100. There's no definitive answer yet because they're still working on it. This was just released a few months ago. So it's still not in production. It's still super like new technology to them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how much added weight that brings to the back? Because I feel like that would be very back heavy.
Yeah, that makes sense. For faster bikes, though, a lot of the weight weirdly enough, tends to be in the middle and the front. Because when you take, um,
I could see that.
yeah,
The wind resistance pushing down on that windshield is going to create a tremendous amount of weight in the front of
it's
the
gonna
bike.
bring you down. Granted, H2 already does a little wheelie when you go fast and quick and don't have enough wind resistance yet. It'll do a little pop up each time you go faster and faster. Again, that's only on the track. Don't ever do that anywhere else but the track.
Gotcha. Okay.
So
And then you have some images too.
yeah, if you want to pull the images up, you can.
There we go. Oh, there's a good shot of it. Yeah.
It's a really nice bike. It gives me like cyberpunk vibes ish because it's very angular and very chunky. I'm not saying that it looks bad because I don't think it does. I just think the tanks where the hydrogen is kind of, I don't know, it's just not the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a decent looking bike. So for some of the specs on it and like the technology behind it. So it's a hybrid system that combines hydrogen, fuel cell, lithium ion battery pack, and an electric traction motor. It has a eco hybrid mode where the electric motor will kick in to help you accelerate past 2,000 RPM. So that's a lot of slow maneuvers when you're in first or second gear, roughly. And then it disengages the engine at slow speeds. So it'll flip on and off when you're basically starting or stopping. That's the engine itself.
There we go.
It has a sports mode as well that utilizes the Ninja 7 Hybrid's combination powertrain, which is a lot of words. But it puts 68 horsepower and 25 pound-foot torque at your fingertips. So it's the electric train motor, and then it's instant torque. So as soon as you give it throttle and give it gas, more or less, it's going to just take off. Probably a lot quicker than my little teeny tiny 400, but it's going to go quick as if it's just straight electric.
And it looks like we have two engines there too, which I guess would make sense because running hydrogen through a 4-cycle engine down below there would be enormous challenges, engineering challenges, switching or blending or
Right.
Right, because their whole thought process is starting with an electric train and then going to the hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to figure out how to switch the engines and basically have two.
Mm-hmm.
So this has an electric transmission featuring 6 gears without a clutch. It's a clutchless system, which a lot of electric bikes have. No clutch, because it doesn't make any sense if you think about it, you know. I find it really weird to not have a clutch because most motorcycles have a clutch because they're all manual. There are some that aren't, and they'll have quick shifters, but you could also add your own quick shifter. Quick shifters are they are I don't fully know how to explain it. I looked it up. So all quick shifters are usually for upshifting motorcycles, and they have a microcontroller that detects the gear shift action via sensor, calculating the shift timing, momentarily cutting off the engine or the ignition, resulting in reduction of the load. The transmission now allows the engine to match the transition speed to switch to the next gear, permit the gear to slip or engage into place. So, in layman's terms, for what I do on my bike is I have a clutch, throttle, and then a shift. So when I rev match, I throw in my clutch, blip it a little bit with my throttle, shift gears. So that's what the quick shifter is essentially doing, just a lot quicker than what I can do, and I don't have to touch my clutch.
Power shifting, I think, is what we used to call that in the drag racing world.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, this bike is crazy. It has a 6-axis inertial movement unit, which helps with the traction control, covering the ABS and the semi-active suspension. Mine only has ABS, and kind of roughly hits about the same speed as that bike. So that bike already has more than what mine does, but as far as technology, but my speed matches their speed, and I only have a 400cc bike, and this one is supposed to replicate the H2, which is twice as fast as my bike. I mean, there's more to it. There's a lot to this bike. It's got 134 horsepower, 3.5 liter hydrogen tank, 39-mile range with quick refueling, regen braking. There's 0 to 60 is 3 seconds. The top speed is over 100, which I think is still roughly about as fast as mine, because mine clocks in at 124 to 140 on the track if it's tuned. And then the curb weight is under 500 pounds, which I think is crazy because this bike is massive. My bike is a little over 400 curb weight. That is wet weight with a full tank and everything. So that being about as fast as my bike for the weight of it is still bizarre to me, because it's, like I said, it's supposed to match the H2, and the H2 is twice as fast as mine.
Okay. Interesting.
But yeah, they're trying to work on a hydrogen bike. I think the technology is interesting and why they wanted to go hydrogen, because I still think that electric is the way to go. There's not a lot of places you can fuel hydrogen, but there are a lot more places where you can just charge your motorcycle, you know.
Yeah. So there's a comment from Roger Starkey that's covered by the camera. Can you read that, Mark?
Yeah, big bike, no passenger seat. He said, what's the system efficiency on hydrogen ice? Is it sub 20%?
That's a great question. I don't fully understand it though.
Well, Roger also says, idea. Let's make the most complicated drivetrain possible.
For real. They said, let's make it more difficult.
The one word that keeps coming to mind for this is kamikaze.
Yeah.
That bike, if that bike gets hit, it's going to just blow up, and whoever hit the bike is also going to die because it's a kamikaze bike.
Yeah, good point.
It's gonna take a whole city block with it, most likely.
Wonderful article, Cass. I love the pictures and stuff.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Well, it looks like we're coming to the end of our show for today. Appreciate all of you joining us. Wait, Cass has one more thing to add. Cass is going to wrap the show. Okay, we're doing some cross-training here with our social media team, so bear with us.
I think it comes down to if Jesse were ever to get hit by one of these bikes and blow up, we need to have somebody to back up.
Exactly.
Jesse.
Instead of getting hit by a bus,
I like that. Yeah.
it would be a hydrogen Kawasaki bike. Well, so thank you for joining us. These are aired every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, or Arizona time now. And make sure you like and subscribe. We'll see you next week. I'm Pete Gruber.
I'm Mark Schaffner. Take care.